Lost cities of the Badlands. Doc. Doc. The cage reeks of blood and sweat from her enraged attempts to escape the beautiful, but strong prison. She grips the bars until her knuckles whiten, her voice raw from shouting, her ire directed on the rich lord who was hosting the auction. You lied to me, she screams. I fought for you, Ashley. I bled for your fucking name. You swore on your honor I'd be free. Lord Ashley raises an imperious eyebrow. I suppose you should have had that in writing, dear. A verbal promise given to a glorified pit slave. You don't honestly expect me to honor that, do you? He scoffs at the very idea, ignoring her outraged threats as he gestures for the auctioneer to begin. The auctioneer, a man with greasy slicked back hair, raises his hands for quiet, his grin sharp and oily. Our next lot. Her name is Anna Stonebit, but her new owner can change that if they so desire. She is strong, beautiful, and unbroken. Truly a fine prize. Who will make the first bid? 400 gold, barks Lord William from the front row. His heavy frame strains the buttons of his coat, his cane thumping against the floor with every word. She killed my man in the pit. I'll see her chained in the public stables, forced to crawl where all can see how far she's fallen. The crowd goes quiet at the massive bid. The common folk instantly unable to compete thanks to the noble powerhouse. Anna leans against the bars, eyes locked on him. Your man was weak. Maybe instead of blaming me, you should have trained him better. The crowd howls, William's face turning crimson. 500, Lady Margaret calls out, rising with slow elegance. Her gown shimmers with jet beads, her voice smooth but cutting. My husband was not shy about his infatuation with this one. He's dead now, but I haven't forgotten. She'll serve in my house, as the lowest of my maids, a reminder of how little beauty is worth when stripped of pride. Anna spits at the floor of her cage, silent but seething. 600, thunders Thomas Brewer, a merchant with a face slicked with sweat. He raises a fat hand, rings glinting. I'll put her to work on the roads. She'll be a fine guard during journeys, and I can sell her to make a profit until she breaks. Murmurs spread through the hall, some of the common folk. Then comes a low laugh. Prince Ronaldo of the Eastern Province leans back in his chair, wine goblet in hand, the lamplight dancing on his gold chain. 800, he says, his tone smooth, his smile cruel. She is no fighter to me. She is beautiful despite her scars, like a wild cat. I'll take her across the sea, a treasure in my collection. She's not the first rebellious pet I've owned. She'll learn her place. Anna's hands tremble around the bars, but her voice cuts through the din. I'd rather die than be your pet. Ronaldo chuckles and drinks deep from his goblet, not seeming the least bit intimidating. The auctioneer claps his hands, shouting over the shocked murmurs of the commoners. 800 from His Highness, Prince Ronaldo. Do I hear more? The hall thunders with noise, bids and insults flying back and forth. Anna presses her forehead to the cold iron, forcing her breath steady. She has fought too long, suffered too much, for this to be her end. But the vultures are circling, and the chains are closing fast. Blaze, a slave soldier forced to fight in the ring for his place. At 5'8", he has 180 pounds of muscle and martial arts ability. He has a short military haircut and a mixed, almost tropical skin tone. His eyes are a glowing golden honey. Keeping his face clean shaven, using bone or stone razors. A push to his back makes him continue walking. Not much further. Gladiator. The auctioneer chuckles leading him to the stage. He moves through the cavernous auction hall, his stride a relentless, rhythmic beat against the polished stone. The crowd instinctively gives way, a living sea of black ties and silk dresses parting to reveal his path. Faces turn, their expressions a stark mix of recognition and dread. The hushed whispers follow his passage like a cold shadow. Blaze, the golden devil, a name etched in blood and fear. Across the hall, Anna's head snaps up, her pale gray eyes, sharp as broken glass, cut through the clamor and lock onto him. She stands against the cage, her fingers still wrapped around the cold, unforgiving bars. A flicker of something, a fragile, dangerous hope, crosses her features before she violently suppresses it, her gaze hardening into a mask of defiance. Prince Ronaldo's boisterous laughter dies a sudden, strangled death in his throat as he turns. Well. The moment Prince Ronaldo sees Blaze, his face contorts into something between a sneer and a smirk. Though there's a slight twitch in his cheek, just a fraction of a second of hesitation before he masks it with arrogance. His golden rings glint as he gestures lazily toward Anna, still pressed against the cage bars. Look at this one, he drawls, voice dripping with amusement. She was supposed to be the champion of the arena. Imagine that, one of the greatest fighters in the Empire, and now she's just another caged animal waiting to be sold. Blaze doesn't react immediately. He stands before her, his golden eyes steady, measuring. The auctioneer raises a hand. We will start the bidding for both together at 1,500 gold pieces. He says, presenting them. Dot. Anna's knuckles whiten against the bars as she clenches her fists, her pale gray eyes never leaving Blaze's face. The air crackles with tension between them, a silent exchange that spans the space separating them. She doesn't speak, but her jaw tightens visibly, and her breathing becomes shallow and controlled. Prince Ronaldo steps closer to Blaze, his expensive cologne and the sweat of nervous excitement mixing in the air. Tell me, Blaze, he purrs, his voice thick with malice, do you think this broken thing could ever be worth the price? Look at her, scarred, defeated, nothing left of the champion she used to be. Might just have to make her eat my meat yet. Without warning, Blaze headbutts the man, dazing him severely. Blaze smirks. That's so disrespectful, he says, spitting at the man's feet. Surprised as he disrespects the Prince of Death, her pale fingers tightening around the cold iron bars until the metal groans under the pressure. A muscle twitches along her jawline as she watches the arrogant nobleman stagger backward, blood trickling from his nose onto his expensive shirt. Impressive, she murmurs, her voice carrying the first sign of genuine interest since her capture. Her gaze sweeps over Blaze's scarred knuckles and the controlled stillness in his stance, noting the way he stands perfectly balanced, ready for anything. But Prince Ronaldo isn't the only one who gets what he deserves here. The auctioneer's hammer slams down twice in quick succession. Anna winches slightly as Blaze falls to a knee, then the prince lands a drunken head kick. Blaze stiffening just before impact, the force knocks the prince off balance as if he kicked a repulsive wall. The nearby guards chuckle slightly as he falls back onto his rear, quickly scrambling to his feet as Blaze smirks, only slightly dazed a moment. The prince scrambles back, wiping blood from his nose with the back of his hand. His face is flushed with rage, his breath coming in short, sharp bursts. But there's something else beneath the anger, fear. Blaze can smell it now, a pungent musk that seeps from his pores, mixing with the metallic tang of blood. I'll have your head for this. Ronaldo spits, though his voice wavers. He turns to the auctioneer. 3,000 gold for both of them, he says, reaching the max bid allowed. The auctioneer's hammer comes down, but Blaze doesn't flinch. His golden eyes remain locked on Anna. Then the world goes black. Anna flinches a little as the auctioneer smacks the back of Blaze's head, knocking him out cold. The auctioneer's gavel cracks against the wooden podium as the sale finalizes, sealing both of their fates with the cold finality of a tombstone inscription. Dot. Anna's knuckles remain white against the iron bars, her pale gray eyes tracking Blaze's unconscious form as he's dragged away by the guards. Her breathing remains shallow and controlled, but the muscles in her jaw work silently as she processes the implications of this transaction. The prince's bloodied face twists into a sneer as he approaches the cage, his expensive cologne now tainted with the coppery sting of his own blood. You'll learn your place soon enough, champion. Send her to the dungeon with Blaze. I have other matters to attend. One more thing, the guards who snicker, kill them. He says, then makes his way to his chambers. Dot. The dungeon is cold and damp, the air thick with mold and rot. Blaze wakes with a groan, his head throbbing where the auctioneer struck him. As his vision clears, he sees iron bars encircling them both in a small cell, himself sprawled across the stone floor, and Anna standing rigid against the far wall, arms crossed over her chest. Her silver-gray eyes track his every movement as he pushes himself upright. "You woke up fast," she says, her voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "I thought you'd be out for a while." Quote. He rubs his head, feeling the lump forming, fingers brushing over the tender spot with practiced ease, his golden eyes locking onto Anna's with a penetrating intensity. He doesn't respond immediately, instead taking stock of his surroundings. The cold, damp walls slick with condensation, the iron manacles bolted into the stone floor. The thick wooden door with its small barred window where a guard silhouette occasionally passes. "Didn't hit hard enough," he finally mutters, his words rough but clear. He rolls his shoulders, testing his range of motion before pushing himself to his feet in one fluid motion. She huddles into the corner. "Just don't come near me," she warns. Blaze doesn't move from his spot near the center of the cell, his hands hanging loose at his sides. The golden hue of his eyes catches what little light filters through the small window, reflecting like a predator's in the dimness. His gaze drifts from Anna's huddled form to the manacles embedded in the stone floor, then back to her face. "You're right to be wary," he says quietly, the words soft yet carrying clearly in the confined space. "But I'm not here to hurt you. We're both just merchandise now." His fingers flex unconsciously, the scars on his knuckles pale against his golden skin. "That prince. Dot. Dot. Dot." Prince Ronaldo winces, shifting his legs, the kick to his balls still fresh in his mind. "Seems fitting for the two of them. Prepare the armored vehicles and make sure the horses get fed. We're taking our two thorns to the lost cities of the Badlands," he says, then chuckles. The dungeon door creaks open, and two guards enter. One grips a set of thick iron shackles, the other holds a leather-wrapped baton. Blaze doesn't flinch as his larger shackles are tightened around his wrists. The weight of them pulls at his shoulders, but he accepts them without resistance. It's 20-foot chain connection surprising him. The guard with the baton steps toward Anna, raising it slightly. "Hands," he grunts. Her lips curl into a sneer as she steps forward, extending her arms. The guard clamping the shackles tight, deliberately pulling her off balance, she recovers instantly. Trained by years of combat, the guard chuckles, grinning at the brief show of dominance. The bigger guard frowns. "Don't think you're getting off easy. The lost cities of the Badlands is as bad as it gets." Blaze pauses, looking at him, and the man chuckles. "Oh, so you know then. Even you can't last long there," he says, pushing Blaze forward. Dot. 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 Hours later, as the rusting Humvee is pulled along by the horses, Blaze looks out of the window at some houses, some still standing as others fall apart in decay. Nature eating away at them, skeletons of cars rest in driveways here and there. The world quiet as he sees the gateway into the zones. "Welcome to where the end of the world started," he says, reading a large sign as he turns to Anna. Dot. Dot. After the mandatory paperwork. Blaze and Anna are directed to exit the Humvee. "Walk ahead of the transport, and when you break off, you're on your own," a voice says from behind. The lost cities of the Badlands looms ahead, a jagged skyline of crumbling skyscrapers piercing the darkening sky. Rust stains streak down concrete walls like gory veins, and twisted metal skeletal remains of vehicles litter the ground. The wind howls through the abandoned city, carrying the stench of rot and decay. Blaze walks beside Anna as storm clouds gather overhead, cooling the air. His shackled hands clench into fists, knuckles white with tension. The armored vehicles rattle and groan as they navigate the broken streets, their headlights cutting through the gloom. Prince Ronaldo lounges in the lead vehicle, his face a mask of cruel amusement as he watches the two prisoners march ahead of the convoy. "Look at them." Anna's eyes narrow as she spots movement in the shadows between the buildings ahead. Her breath catches when she sees them. 3 figures in tattered clothing emerging from the ruins, their faces gaunt with hunger and desperation. One carries a makeshift club, another a piece of rebar sharpened to a point, while the third clutches a rusted kitchen knife. "Blaze," she murmurs, her voice tight with warning. The shackles around her wrists seem heavier now, the metal cold against her skin as she realizes they are completely exposed. The convoy of armored vehicles has stopped, their engines idling ominously as the guards remain inside, seemingly content to let whatever happens play out. Just then the Humvee's horn blares, the approaching figures being startled. "Be quiet, you fools, the man-eaters will come," one shouts, running to a nearby building to hide. The Humvee speaker crackles. "That's the idea," the prince says as the horn sounds again. The first raindrops fall as the gaunt figures hesitate, their eyes darting between the armored convoy and the 2 prisoners. The man with the sharpened rebar grips it tightly, his knuckles pale beneath the dirt. His companions edge closer to the walls, clearly expecting an ambush from some unseen foe. "Fucking scabs," Anna mutters, her gray eyes scanning the ruins for threats. The rain intensifies, pelting the pavement with sharp patters. "Blaze, do you see what I see?" She nods subtly toward a rooftop 3 stories up, where a figure in tattered robes stands motionless, watching. Blaze sighs. "Yeah, a handler. His mutated wolf has gotta be around here somewhere." She looks around nervously. The rain drums against the pavement, turning the cracked concrete slick with grime and oil. The scavengers hesitate as Blaze and Anna advance, their movements cautious but deliberate. The handler on the rooftop remains still, his presence a silent command to the scavengers below. The wolf must be circling already, using the rain to mask its approach. "Easy now," Blaze murmurs as they pass the first scavenger, the one with the sharpened rebar. The man's hollow eyes flick to them, then back to the convoy. He knows better than to attack, but his fingers tighten around his makeshift weapon anyway. Looking over, Anna jumps away as a large claw rockets toward her. The man-eater roars, its scaly reptile-like skin slick with rain as its coal-fire eyes bore into them. The scavs scatter, bolting off into random buildings, the nearby Humvee backing away slowly. The creature's tiger-like body rippling with raw power as it moves into the open from a doorway, the rain sizzling against its skin. Anna stumbles backward, her shackles clanking against the wet concrete as the man-eater's massive frame blocks the path to the convoy. The beast's fiery red-orange eyes lock onto her, nostrils flaring as it tastes the fear in the air. Its claws scrape against the ground, leaving deep gouges in the already scarred pavement. "Blaze," she hisses, her back pressed against the cold metal of a fence. The creature circles them, its movements fluid and purposeful despite its bulk. Steam rises from its scaled hide in the cold rain, creating a mist that obscures its approach. Blaze moves with calculated control, positioning himself to shield Anna from the creature's path. The man-eater lunges, its massive body moving faster than something so large should. Blaze twists, muscles straining as he yanks Anna to the side. The beast's claws rake the fence behind them, tearing through metal like it's paper. The impact sends them both sprawling, but Blaze rolls instantly, rising to his knees before the creature can capitalize on the opening. "Stay behind me," he snaps, though it's almost lost in the downpour. Anna scrambles up, shackled hands gripping the chain between them as the beast's head swings toward them again. Its jaws snap shut inches from Blaze's face, the heat of its breath searing against his skin. Dodging a left swipe of a claw, Blaze circles a solid steel-like pole. The chain wrapping the pole as he flash steps and pivots, then dashes back towards the creature as it lunges once more. The chain slack, he throws a loop over its neck as he slips a clawed straight punch like right. Flash stepping away, the chain is pulled tight, snapping around its neck. A choked roaring screech uttering from its jaws as it reels back. Anna's eyes grow wide as she's pulled towards the pole, shifting to push against it, stopping herself as the fixture shudders. The chain growing tighter around the creature's neck as her gaze snaps to Blaze, who pulls on the shackles harder. Is he stupid crazy or crazy smart? She thinks looking at the pole acting as a crude pulley and brace for her feet. Did he just set this up that fast? She muses, pulling harder on the chain. The man-eater struggles to breathe, gasping as it violently thrashes against the threat. The 20-foot heavy chain meant to weigh them down, now a tool for their survival. Blaze anchors his feet against a raised step-like fissure in the pavement, straining as they both brace and pull. The creature slowly calms, drooping to the ground between them. As they pull with all they have, the chain cuts into its flesh. As it stops moving, Blaze releases the tension. "Come on, let's get moving," he says, quickly gathering the chain. She pauses. "It's still alive," she says, seeing its back rise and fall. Blaze looks over. "I know. That's kind of the point," he says as he gently tugs her along. Draping the extra loops over himself as they move away, the creature shakes its head and slowly wanders in the opposite direction. The man-eater stumbles into the shadow of an abandoned building, its massive frame seeming to fold in on itself as it retreats. The chain rattles faintly as they move away from it, the links clinking between them as they walk. "Point," Anna echoes, her words still sharp with adrenaline. She keeps glancing back toward the creature, her silver-gray eyes flickering with residual fear. "You just want to keep it alive. Why not kill it?" Blaze tightens the slack in the chain, pulling it taut between them. "Waste of energy," he says simply. "And we need to save our strength. Might run into worse later." "There's worse than that?" she asks. Nodding as they rush into a building, he chuckles. "Have you not heard the stories? Dot. Dot. The inside of the building is dry and crumbling, with walls that still echo the past." The chain between them clinks softly as they move through the darkness, Blaze's golden eyes scanning the shadows while Anna keeps her back pressed against the inside wall. Her free hand never far from the crude dagger at her hip. "It's not the stories that scare me," she mutters, "it's the way you talk like you've seen worse." Blaze doesn't answer immediately. He leads them into what was once a kitchen, the remains of a rusted stove visible beneath layers of dust and grime. "I've never been inside this place. Only heard tales, seen things from the top of the walls. Some things you can't even fight, just run," he tells her as she stops walking. "Why can't they be fought?" He glances at her in the gloom. "'Cause they don't have bodies like others things. Mostly mist or smoke, heavier than air and can shrink to a certain point, they can't just float over or through the walls. And the walls have the only known weapons that can hurt them just in case they do try climbing out. 24/7 watch duty. Fuck." The word slips out before she can stop it, raw and immediate. She leans against the wall, her shoulders slumping slightly as the implications sink in. "So we're running from something that eats people, to something that doesn't even have a normal body." The silver gray in her eyes glints with something darker now. The ghost of a thought she hadn't wanted to entertain fully. Blaze crouches near the rusted stove, his movements fluid despite the chains. "Not just running," he corrects, his voice quiet but firm. "Surviving. There's a difference." His golden eyes reflect the dim light as he studies the metal remnants of the kitchen. "We'll stay here for now till the rain and coming night are over," he says, finding a pile of cardboard boxes filling the small room nearby. Smashing them down, he then opens them as he interlocks the flaps. Dot. Dot. Finishing up, he slips several table sheets over the top, tucking them under the 8-foot square pallet, hidden away in a back room. He then takes the other boxes and stuffs them with insulation from the ceiling, using plastic sheets and wires to seal it into the boxes, making 2 pillows. Laying back, he looks over at Anna. Her expression one of confusion. She doesn't move from her position against the wall, her pale fingers still gripping the dagger's handle. The coolness of the building chills her, and her gray eyes dart between Blaze's makeshift shelter and the doorway they'd just entered. Rain continues to drum against the roof overhead, each drop like a countdown to whatever comes next. Surviving, she repeats, testing the word in her mouth. You talk like this is normal for you. Like running from things that shouldn't exist is just routine. Her voice carries an edge of something beyond fear, perhaps recognition. or even envy at the matter-of-fact way he discusses the impossible. He shrugs, then motions to join him. He doesn't insist or push. He simply waits, watching her with those golden eyes that seem to see more than they should. The silence stretches between them, thick with unspoken things. The rain outside intensifies, rattling against the remains of the roof like 1,000 tiny bones. Finally, Anna exhales sharply and pushes off the wall, moving with the same calculated precision he'd observed in her earlier fight. She settles onto the edge of the makeshift bed, keeping a careful distance from him but close enough to share the space. The chains between them clink softly as she shifts, adjusting her grip on the dagger she still hasn't put down. "They say you were a gladiator." Laying his head back looking at the ceiling, he nods. The stuffed box and plastic crinkling softly, he looks over at her dagger, then rolls to face away from her. "You want first watch," he says, settling in. She doesn't answer immediately. The rain outside intensifies, filling the pauses in their conversation with its steady drumming. Anna's fingers tighten around the dagger's hilt, the worn leather grip warm beneath her palm. The way Blaze positions himself, turning his back to her, makes her stomach twist with an old, familiar feeling. It's not trust, exactly. More like a test. A challenge. "You sleep too easily," she says finally, keeping her words low but firm. The dim light catches the sharp angles of her face as she studies the back of his head. For someone who supposedly knows how to survive, there's no real accusation in it, just an observation. He chuckles. "Enemies everywhere, huh? I'd just disarm you anyway. Besides, if I didn't trust you, I'd have just let that thing bite through our chain instead and split up," he says. The rain drums steadily, a rhythm that mirrors the measured cadence of her breathing. Anna's fingers tighten around the dagger, the old leather worn smooth from years of gripping it in similar situations. She studies Blaze's turned back, the way his shoulders rise and fall in slow, even breaths. He isn't just relaxing, he's resting like he's done it 1,000 times in worse places. "You're either very confident or very stupid," she mutters. The words hang between them, but she doesn't take her eyes off him. His presence in the small space is solid, undeniable. Despite the chains that connect them, there's no sense of confinement, not with him here. He smirks to himself. "You're the only one thinking bad things here, you know. And no, I'm not using psychological tricks. If I was doing that, I'd flirt after we almost died." Body mistakes it for real interest. He chuckles, shaking his head. His words hang in the air, and for a second, Anna's breath catches. She shifts slightly, the chain between them clinking softly. The rain outside hammers against the metal walls, filling the heavy silence that follows. Her grip on the dagger loosens just a fraction, then tightens again. "You think this is funny?" she asks, but there's no real heat behind the words. She exhales through her nose, the ghost of a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth despite herself. He doesn't turn to look at her, but she can hear the amusement in his voice when he speaks again. "Maybe a little," he admits. "Life's too short to take everything so seriously." She gives a short laugh. "That's all life is." "True, but if you take it too seriously, you'll never be happy." "Not saying ignore life's issues, but it's whatever, just roll with it," he says. Dot. Dot. The rain outside has slowed to a steady patter. The space inside the room remaining charged between them. Shifting to lay on the far side, the chain between them jingles softly as she moves. Her hand drifts up to touch the scar running along her collarbone, the mark left behind by a blade that nearly opened her throat. She traces it absently, a habit she's never been able to break. "You don't seem to be rolling with much," she says finally. "You're still here, same as me." The words come out quieter than intended, almost intimate in the close quarters. He exhales, stretching his legs out. "That's half true." Dot. Dot. Dot.